Bum-ba-da-dum. Banjo Ben here. We're going to talk banjo spikes today, not how to put them in. I have a great video where Jake shows you how to do that at home, but what I want to talk about today is how to actually use them, some of the techniques, some of the different configurations you may find with banjo spikes, and also just some tips for how to use them better because they can mess with your tuning. And you may run into some problems out there with banjo spikes that aren't installed correctly, and there's some ways to help mitigate some of the problems you're going to face. So let's talk banjo spikes. When I say banjo spikes, some people may not know what I'm talking about, but what I mean are tiny little capo spikes that are installed on the fretboard of the banjo that are meant to capo up your fifth string only. You see, since the banjo's fifth string only runs down to the fifth fret, whenever we use a capo for the other four strings, this fifth string needs to be capoed as well. And there's lots of different ways that you can do that. There's a rail capo, and sometimes you'll see those installed on top of the banjo with a little sliding device that follows that rail. There's also an individual fifth string capo that we do sell at the general store made out of brass that you can move wherever you want. And those are really handy to have in addition to whatever other capo installation you have, because there may be instances where you want to capo your fifth string way up the neck, and it allows you to do that. But my favorite way to capo up a fifth string traditionally is with the banjo spikes. Now, my first banjo that I had back in the day was made by a local luthier. We might call him a luthier. He was more of a legend than a luthier. And he literally built the banjo out underneath some pine trees behind his RV. And he also installed the spikes, and he didn't do the best job. And I didn't know that at the time, but I knew that I struggled with the banjo spikes. I struggled with, I think one came out, there was one that the string would pop out of all the time, and then the tuning issues that I faced were quite frustrating. It wasn't until later, and I got banjo spikes installed correctly, that I realized how they're supposed to work. But essentially, whenever we go to put our banjo string under the spikes, it's generally a two-finger process. I'll just cover this first. If they're installed correctly, they're probably going to be a little tough to get under with one hand. I can do it just because I've done it so many times. But usually what's going to happen whenever I'm playing in a jam or on stage is I'm going to put one finger on one side and then grab my thumb on the other side, and I'm just going to press with some force and stick it underneath that railroad spike. Now, I can't speak to how your banjo spikes are installed. It could be that yours are installed with too little tolerance, and it's very, very, very difficult to get that string under there. If you run into that issue, not only will it be tough to get the string under there, but it could potentially pinch your string whenever you go to tune. So after you get it under there and you're trying to tune, and maybe you turn your tuning peg, but the pitch of the string does not change because that spike is bounding it up. And I've had that happen before. If that's the case, it is possible to maybe gently bend that railroad spike out a little bit. The danger you run there is that you bend up the angle and then your string pops out when you don't want it to. So there's you may have to end up pulling the spike altogether, reinstalling. Not a big deal. Happens all the time. It could be that your banjo spike is not installed deep enough, and that whenever you do go and play your banjo and then you're playing, or you spike your string, then you're playing, and then the string pops out from underneath that fifth string spike, and that's a problem as well. And you can take a simple little punch and just gently tap that banjo spike down to the correct tolerance, which again, if you'll reference my video that Jake made on installing banjo spikes, it will show you everything you need to know there. So that kind of covers the actual process of putting your banjo spike or your banjo string under the spike. I'll say one other thing before we move on to the application and how we use them in our playing. Banjo spikes, I think, are correctly installed whenever they point down toward the floor. So we're sliding our string up toward the ceiling. It seems counterintuitive. A lot of people will install banjo spikes where they're pointed up toward the ceiling, where you have to take your banjo string and push it down because you think, well, I'm playing down on the string. I don't want to pop the string out from under there. That's actually not the best way. And if they're installed correctly, pointing down, your string will not come out of the spike. So not a big deal if yours are installed facing up. I just think it's not as easy to get them under there. And it can tend to cause maybe some more tuning issues, but that's debatable. I think the best way is to install them pointing down, which is how we teach to do it and how we install them at the general store. Okay, in our next little video segment, we're going to talk about how we use them and the different configurations that you'll find, because people prefer different spikes on different frets, and we'll talk why and what to do to play in whatever key we want. Let's talk about the actual use of the spikes and capoing our fifth string whenever we play. I mentioned earlier that we usually use these whenever we're capoing with our regular capo, and we need to also capo with our fifth string. However, there's times that we use the spikes when we're not using a capo down here at all. For instance, if we're playing in the key of D. A lot of times we will not use a capo to play in the key of D, but we might want to do something with this high fifth string. Might want to change it to a note that's in the D major chord. It just might sound a bit better as you play that drone string. And probably the most common thing that people do is tune that fifth string up to an A. So it would go from a G up to an A, a whole step. So that means that we're going to need to spike or capo our fifth string at the 7th fret. So right now it's in tune. I just want you to see this. It's in tune or pretty close. Whenever I put the string under the spike at the 7th fret, listen to the tuning now. It's a little sharp, and it should be. This is an excellent spike job done by the luthier, but it's still going to be sharp if it's even if it's done right. So it's going to require some retuning, and you'll see pros do this all the time. They spike under, and then what you're going to do is we don't let the tuning go down to try to match the pitch, because you can get your string trapped in there. What we want to do is go on down beneath the pitch that we desire and then tune it back up. Okay, so I'll go ahead and kind of aggressively get it down beneath that pitch that we're looking for. This is the note that I'm aiming for, and I'll slowly come up till it sounds like it's in tune, then I'll check it. Okay? Again, if you just try to come down to match the pitch, good chance that the spike's going to hold some slack on your string, and then as you play, the string continually goes more and more flat as it lets that slack out. Okay, so go ahead and come down. Okay, so that's how we're going to play in D a lot of times. And by the way, that tip for tuning down beneath the desired pitch and then raising it up, that applies to every one of your tuning pegs on any instrument. There's always a tendency, if you're just tuning down to a pitch, that you're going to have some string slack get caught and give you tuning problems later as you're playing. Okay, so let's tune back up to standard tuning. Okay, and if you'll notice with this banjo, I've got spikes at 7, 8, and 9. And those are going to be the frets that I'm going to most commonly spike my banjo at. Is that the only notes that I'm going to need? That's an A, a B flat, and a B. No, there's going to be times where I might want an A flat. There's going to be times where I may want a C. So what are we going to do there? Well, before we answer that question, let's go ahead and look at the more common positions. Let's say that we're coming up to A, and I have a whole other video lesson on installing properly using this capo down here. Okay, so those 4 strings are in tune because I've got my Elliott capo and it's well built and this banjo's set up great. But again, if I just go right into the 7th fret with that 5th string, doesn't sound great, does it? They're not matching, so what am I going to do? Coming down beneath. Check your tuning. Okay, it's there. That also means that whenever I pull my capo off to go back to G tuning and I let it out from underneath the spike, is it going to be in tune? No, it's not. It should be flat now, right? And it is. So now I can just tune up a little bit and I'm in tune. Okay, so obviously if I go to B flat, I've got a corresponding spike for that on the 8th fret. If I capo up to B, I've got a corresponding spike for that. Let's say that I want to go to C. Okay, and it may not be that I'm going to capo at the 5th fret to go to C. It may be that I'm going to play in F. And a lot of times when you're playing in F, you'll capo 3, you'll play out of a D position, you'll play out of a D position, and you need this top string to be a C, okay? So what am I going to do there? I'm going to capo at the 9th fret, and I'm going to raise the pitch of my 5th string a half step so that it matches. Matches that C pitch, right? Okay, and the same thing would be true if I needed an A flat for some reason. I could capo on my 7th fret, and drop the tuning of my 5th string a half step to get that A flat note, okay? So whenever you're buying a new banjo from us, what we'll ask you as soon as you place the order is, how do you want your banjo spikes installed? Because that's part of the free service that we offer. And I always recommend to people, get them 7 through 10, because it's pretty common that you're going to need to spike a C note up at that 10th fret. And it's okay to tune up, but what happens when you tune up? When you tune up a half step, then that throws off your tuning for your 5th string whenever you throw your finger over. Right now, the string is now capoed up or tuned up, and so your licks where your thumb's going to come over, you have to adjust for that now. So if you keep a spike on your 10th fret, then you don't have to worry about that. For instance, let's look at this Davis banjo. Got it not too long ago. It's the Granada. Great banjo. Woo! This one just came from Tim, spiked at the 7th and 9th, which is, a lot of people prefer that. But what am I going to do at B flat? Well, I've got 2 options, right? I'm going to capo here to go to B flat. We're all good, but I don't have an 8th fret to go under, so I can either capo it at 9 and tune the banjo string down a half step, or I can go to 7 and tune up a half step. This really is up to us. I like to keep the string tension up, so I may go here to 7. Or, like I said, go up here. So it doesn't matter as far as the tuning goes, but it is going to change how your notes are played whenever you thumb over. So you just need to be aware of that. Next time I go up to the store in Missouri, I could do it here, but it's just easier at the store. We have all the tools just sitting out. I'm going to install a spike on my 8th fret and probably on the 10th fret too. And again, be sure and check out that video that Jake's made. You can just search for that on YouTube, how to install 5th string spikes, and look for my YouTube channel results there, and you can watch that. But if you have any questions about that, leave a comment. No matter where you're watching this video, if you're a Gold Pit member here on the site, just leave it in the forum thread, and I'll be sure and get to that about maybe challenges that you're experiencing with your banjo spikes, because there's probably some kind of issues that I haven't addressed if you're dealing with a bad spike installation. Unfortunately, they happen and they cause all sorts of trouble, but it's not something to panic over. Worst case scenario, take some pliers, you gently pull them out, you fill in those holes with some ebony dust, and you reinstall. No big deal at all, and we can help you do all of that. So thanks for watching today. I hope that was helpful, and again, I look forward to hearing from you and answering any questions that you might have. Go up here. So it doesn't matter as far as the tuning goes, but it is going to change